Good morning, folks. It is Jamie on a chat trap right here on Relax Radio. Now, this is the show that you relax to. And if you want to keep yourself updated on everything that's going on in the world, well, all you got to do is make sure that you keep it tuned right here on a Relax Radio. Now, the topic of discussion for today is actually what about dating apps and what about relationships? Now, I know the moment you hear this, a lot of you are going to be able to relate to this topic just because I feel like, especially living in a digital age, dating apps have played such a huge role in all of our lives. Personally, as well, I do use dating apps, and I know a lot of people that do use dating apps, and genuinely, it is one of the best ways to socialize, to get to know people, especially, understanding that a lot of us can't go out with the coronavirus situation. I feel like dating apps has actually been very helpful to a lot of us. But before I move on to the topic of discussion today, I just wanted to share a little story of Emilia Clarke. Now, she is one of my favorite actresses. I genuinely think she is super talented. Um, I love her in Game of Thrones. I love her in all her roles. And one thing that she's been very open to the public about is her private life, her dating life. So she recently went on a Twitter rant and she told all of us that she created a profile on a celebrity dating app and it was called a Raya. Now, the reason that she has joined this app was because she thought it's the best way moving forward to, have a social life, maybe to get to know some people. But folks, wait for it, because apparently, as soon as she logged into it and spent a few hours, she deactivated her account because and I quote her, she says it was disappointing. She said she agreed to give it a whirl, but it turned out to be very disappointing and very materialistic. Now that I understand completely is Emilia Clarke's view or perspective when it comes to dating apps. But let's look at the general census. Let's look at what people or what professionals have to say about dating apps. Now, first of all, the short answer as to if dating apps are good for you or not is a lot of the older generation at least is going to say no, because at the end of the day, especially if you're a person struggling with maybe like a personal self-love issue or a body positivity issue, maybe putting yourself out there is going to be so much harder than for a person that is full of self-confidence and self-esteem, and that is totally understandable. But first of all, before I go into details about what you can do to ensure that you are mentally healthy, that you do not have a toxic relationship with dating apps in itself. Before we get into that, let me just tell you what census is out there regarding dating apps in itself. Now, the short answer is yes. Dating apps can negatively impact your mental health if you're not using them in a healthy way. And particularly if you have previously battled with, say, anxiety or depression, or you do have a very stressful busy life, then yes, it is going to get in the way of your mental health, rather. And despite the huge popularity of dating apps, many users have reported that feeling low and experiencing self doubt because of the fact they're constantly scrolling through dating apps. Now, apparently, uh, dating apps, according to some people out there, now this is something that I did ask a lot of my coworkers on the way to work as well. Now, a few people strongly believe, that when it comes to dating apps, it makes you focus on the superficial instead of focusing on what's real and important in relationships, such as, say, friendship and commitment and shared values. Now, this I feel like is a genuine problem that we have when it comes to dating apps. A lot of us, tend to scroll on and on and on and give value to a human being based on, say, two sentences that they have on their bio or what they look like when it comes to physical appearance. Now, this starts to become an issue when we use this knowledge or use this theory of judging people in everyday life as well. Because when you start, judging, oh, would he be a good person to hang out with, or would he be a good person to, go on a date with? And when we start deciding these questions based on physical attributes or the two or three sentences that are there in the bio, it starts getting a little bit problematic when people start to look at everyday life and meet people and judge them based on their physical attributes. And I feel like that is when dating apps could be harmful in our lives. And moving on, the one thing that I do want you to remember is that low self-esteem is a risk factor of a large number of mental health issues, including and definitely not limiting to limited rather to depression. And I feel like a lot of us waste time on superficial goals, and it's time that so we spend so much time focusing on these superficial goals, like get a proper picture, get as many likes as possible, or even when it comes to social media, a lot of us are so entrapped by the digital world in the 21st century, in today's day and age, that sometimes we forget how to use these platforms in a healthy way. Now, that's what I want to help you out with. Obviously, I am not a perfectionist. I have trouble with this every single day. But there are obviously a certain, there are certain tips that I do remind myself in order to make sure that I am using all of these social platforms, these dating apps, even social media in general, that I am using it in a healthy way, in a way that is positive for not just my mental health, but positive for, everybody that hangs out with me as well. Now, first of all, what I do want you to remember is that if you are feeling low generally, it's important to avoid dating apps. So as to not exacerbate the situation. Because I feel like when you do have a question of self-love, or when you are questioning if when you have questions based on yourself, it's so hard to find love. Now, this is not limited to dating apps, okay? This is something that I've always told you. If you can't love yourself, then you can't really, start loving somebody else. You need to learn how to love yourself because, like I always say, the most important relationship that we have in this world is not with our parents or is not with, our significant other. The most important relationship that we have in this world is a relationship we have with ourselves, which is why it's always so, so important that you first fix the relationship that you have with yourself. And I feel like if you're in the process of fixing this relationship that you do have with yourself, joining dating apps or, using things like dating apps could be not the best thing to do, especially if you're not in that position where you are sure about yourself, where you know yourself, and where you've come to understand your passions and what goals you have in life. So that's one tip that you do remember. Or in general, if you feel like today is not a great day, or if you're not having the best of day today, maybe just not scroll through your dating apps. Or I guess, see, there's two ways to look at it. If you're somebody that is very sure of yourself and you are having a bad day and just scrolling through dating apps is going to help you uplift your day, then go ahead, do it. But at the end of the day, I feel like that decision, you need to sit down and make that decision with yourself. So ask yourself, do I really like the relationship I have with myself? Do I really like myself at this point? And if the answers are yes to these questions, then go right ahead and live your life for all we can. Now, secondly, what I do want to remind you is see, if only use dating apps when you are feeling resilient enough to deal with rejections, and your body and mind will tell you if you do. Now, that's the other thing, right? I feel like dating apps is, rejection rather, is something that a lot of us struggle to deal with. And I feel like the reason dating apps are so can be so harmful to certain individuals is just because those individuals rather can't deal with that rejection. So, first of all, tell yourself that the only person that needs to accept you and validate you is yourself. You need to truly believe that sentiment. You need to truly understand the value of, or rather, understand the value of valuing yourself. Okay. And the minute you realize that you don't really need the validation of anybody else, and if they reject you, well, then it's their loss. If you do realize this, then life just gets so much easier. And even scrolling through dating apps, or just exploring all of these social apps and social platforms becomes so much more easier and, well, healthy as well. Those are a few tips and tricks to use the dating apps to the best of its ability, to the best of your ability as well, in a way that is positive. Because listen, this is Relax Radio and we talk about all things positive. Now, with that being said, let's get back into a little music before we talk about more serious stuff. But make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio.